You're watching TheStoryBoxTv. Like, comment, and subscribe for more. Lagos does not destroy men in one blow. It wears them down. It grinds ambition beneath traffic fumes, unpaid bills, and speeches from men in starched agbadas promising economic reform. Philip and Tunde grew up believing they would escape that grind. Their father believed it even more. A retired civil servant from the Ministry of Works, he was a man of rigid honesty. He never built mansions like his colleagues, never bought land in Lekki. He said integrity was wealth. When Philip graduated with a degree in banking and finance, and Tunde with economics, he slaughtered 2 goats in their compound in Surulere. "My sons will change our story," he declared proudly. 3 years later, those sons were still unemployed. Applications, interviews, rejections. Hope slowly turned into embarrassment. Their father's hypertension worsened. Diabetes followed. Routine hospital visits became optional when money ran short. Medication was halved. Appointments skipped. One humid night during a blackout, he stepped outside to fix the generator. He collapsed beside it. The doctor wrote, "Cardiac arrest due to unmanaged hypertension." Philip read it differently. Poverty. At the burial in Osun State, Philip watched red earth swallow his father and made a vow. He would never allow poverty to kill his family again. He did not know that vow would demand blood. The price of breathing. 6 months later, opportunity arrived quietly. Philip secured a junior operations role at a commercial bank on Lagos Island. The pay was modest, but steady. Tunde joined a fintech company in Yaba as a loan recovery officer, chasing debtors across Lagos traffic. They moved their mother into a cramped apartment in Mushin. Then she collapsed. Stage 5. Dialysis began immediately. $50,000 per session, twice weekly. Transplant cost, 60 million naira. The number suffocated them. They sold the Surulere house their father left behind. It disappeared into hospital bills within weeks. Tunde created a crowdfunding campaign. After 2 months, 200,000 naira. Philip handled billion naira transfers daily at work. He stood inside the vault one evening during reconciliation and stared at stacks of money sealed in plastic. 2 billion naira sat quietly behind steel. 60 million was nothing, a fraction. That night outside the dialysis ward, Philip said it. "We take it." Tunde stared. "Take what?" "The bank." The silence that followed was heavy. "Philip, that's prison. She'll die." Desperation does not argue logically. It convinces. Through one of Tunde's loan recovery targets, they were introduced to Keme, the man who smiled at violence. Keme was not loud. That made him dangerous. Recently released under political pardon after years in prison for armed robbery and political thuggery, he carried himself with calculated calm. They met him in a dim bar in Festac. "You want 60 million? He asked quietly. "Yes," Philip replied. "And the rest? Yours." Keme leaned back. "You're educated, boys. Why risk it?" Philip did not blink. "My mother is dying." Something flickered in Keme's eyes. Recognition, but also calculation. "Once we start," Keme said softly, "you don't control how it ends." They planned for 3 weeks. Philip mapped vault timing, security rotations, CCTV blind spots. Tunde refused to carry a gun. "I'll drive." 2 vans were secured. Rainy Tuesday chosen for reduced police mobility. But unknown to Philip and Tunde, Keme had already spoken to a powerful political financier who wanted instability before state elections. A bank robbery inside a major commercial institution would rattle markets. Philip believed he was planning a desperate heist. Keme was orchestrating something bigger. The bank job. Tuesday. Rain fell heavily over Lagos Island. Inside the bank, a pregnant woman waited in line. An elderly trader argued about charges. At 1:17 p.m., the doors exploded inward. Gunshots cracked. Glass shattered. Customers screamed. From the pregnant woman's perspective, everything slowed. She saw glass suspended midair. She saw a security guard fall. She clutched her stomach and dropped to the floor. "Down!" Kemi roared. Guards were disarmed within seconds. Tunde sat in the van outside, hands shaking violently. Inside, Philip raised his hands theatrically and entered vault codes. The steel door opened. Money everywhere. They filled duffel bags quickly. 3 minutes. Then greed shifted the air. Kemi stepped back, raised his rifle. Philip's confusion lasted a heartbeat. "You promised!" The gunshot thundered inside the vault. Philip fell onto cold concrete. Blood soaked into bundles of naira. Outside, Tunde saw men running, not toward him, but toward another van reversing from the service exit. That was not the plan. Sirens wailed sooner than expected. Police tactical response units arrived within 5 minutes. Tunde stepped into the rain, screaming Philip's name. He was arrested instantly. Robbery lasted 4 minutes. The damage would last far longer. The story they told. Headlines exploded. Inside job. Bank officer mastermind killed. Terror on Lagos Island. Philip was painted greedy. Tunde labeled accomplice. But inside police headquarters, Inspector Danladi felt something was off. Why kill the insider? Why use a secondary van? Why were political figures unusually vocal within hours? Phone metadata linked Kemi to a powerful businessman known for funding election violence. 3 days later, marked bills surfaced at a high-end nightclub in Victoria Island. Surveillance confirmed it. Kemi was there. Midnight gunfire. The tactical raid happened at 12:43 a.m. Music blasted inside the club when officers stormed in. Gunfire erupted immediately. Civilians screamed. Tables flipped. 3 of Kemi's men were killed in the exchange. 2 officers wounded. Kemi attempted escape through a rear corridor but was shot in the leg and captured. During interrogation, he laughed. "You think this was about money?" he sneered. "Your banker boy was useful." He refused to name his political sponsor, but financial analysts discovered something startling. Nimie's 60 million had been quietly transferred into a hospital account 3 days after the robbery. Anonymous source. It covered transplant costs. Tracing the origin revealed a shell trail, but the starting point linked back to Kemi's network. When confronted, he smiled. "I killed him," he admitted, "but I kept my word." He had set aside the 60 million before betraying Philip. Not mercy, ego. He wanted control over life and death. Meanwhile, behind closed doors, pressure mounted. Markets dipped slightly after the robbery. Opposition parties blamed the sitting governor for security failures. The robbery had served its political purpose, but the sponsor remained untouched. Inspector Danladi pushed too hard. Within weeks, he was transferred out of Lagos. The cost of survival. Tunde remained detained for months. In prison visitation, his mother, pale but recovering after surgery, asked only one question: "Where is Philip?" Tunde never answered fully. The state publicly announced it would sponsor the transplant under humanitarian grounds, unaware it had already been paid for anonymously. Public sympathy shifted. Philip became a desperate son, failed by the system. Kemi was sentenced to life imprisonment. His political sponsor was never named. Years later, Tunde stood outside Kirikiri prison after his reduced sentence ended. He had lost a brother, saved a mother. In Nigeria, poverty pulls the trigger long before criminals do. As he walked into the Lagos sun, traffic roared past him. Life continued. Because in Lagos, tragedy does not stop the city. It simply becomes another headline. And sometimes the greatest robbery is not money from a vault, but hope from a generation.